gun. Oh, I got eyes in the back of my head, just in case I have to run. I do what I can when I can, while I can for my people. While the clouds roll back and the stars fill the night, that's when I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones. Early in the morning, before the sun begins to shine, we're gonna start moving towards that separating line. I'm wading through muddy waters. You know I got a made up mind, and I don't mind if I lose any blood on the way to salvation. And I fight with the strength that I got until I die. So I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. And I know what's around the bend might be hard to face, 'cause I'm alone, and I just might fail, but Lord knows I'll try. Just stars fill up the sky. Stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Do you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. I hear freedom calling, calling me to answer. Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones. I go to prepare a place for you. I go to prepare a place for you. I go to prepare a place for you. I go to prepare a place for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage our MC for the day, former mayoral candidate, Greg Robinson II.
Well, Dr. Crutcher and I had to pull a fast one on y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all what happened. As we were preparing for this event, we knew we had to get a lot of permits. We knew we had to make sure that the Cox Business Center was set up right, and she was just a little concerned that if my name was on the program, maybe we wouldn't have got all that done. So we had to pull a fast one and put the Pulitzer Prize one on there. Certainly, Wesley Lowry wanted to be here and had a difficulty with his flight this morning, and so I am going to do just the very best I can in emceeing this incredibly impactful event. But let's start by giving the incredible Brand J another round of applause for that performance. I remember sitting here last year in the midst of the pomp and circumstance that was the centennial of the Tulsa Race Massacre. And I remember thinking back on just how many folks were no longer in the room. Certainly, as we are now 101 years since the Tulsa Race Massacre, there are still fewer folks who are in the room. Fewer voices that will be able to see that day when we achieve justice. I want us to remember that while we celebrate those of us that are here carrying on that message. Because every day, that weight necessarily gets just that much heavier. That responsibility gets that much more necessary. So I want us to recognize the descendants who have made it here today. Let's give them a round of applause for being here. And as you saw in the video, though we have lost many, we have not lost all. And I'm so proud to say that once again, still fighting, we have with us Mother Randall, Mother Fletcher, and Uncle Hughes Van Ellis, and we want to welcome them and give them a standing ovation. Now, this luncheon is sponsored by the Terrence Crutcher Foundation, an organization that does just about everything that they need to do. Always there to respond to any call. And before we jump into this amazing program, I want to be sure that we really highlight the work of the Crutcher Foundation. Let us not forget that this is a work that was born out of tragedy, just like our fight for justice here that we're recognizing today was born out of tragedy. Terrence Crutcher is still yet to receive justice. And yet, his family allows for that blood not just to be their blood, but to be this community's blood. Not just to be this community's blood, but to be this country's blood. They don't just focus on criminal justice. They focus on justice, period. They have three pillars of their work. On one side, they want to advance policy. On the other side, they want to strengthen community. But right in the center, the central pillar of their work is honoring the legacy of our ancestors. And so it is so purposeful that they and their staff invest their efforts, their energies, their creativity, their spirit and gift for collaboration to bring us events, not just like this luncheon, but this whole Legacy Fest weekend. Let's give the Crutcher Foundation, all of the supporters, the volunteers, the staff members, a round of applause. For those of you like myself who have the privilege of serving as a board member, if you could just raise your hand where you are. I know there are many of you here, and we certainly thank you for the support and efforts that you give to this foundation and to this work. Now, the story of Greenwood, the legacy of Greenwood, is certainly a story that has been talked about, particularly in the past few years. Everywhere from the prayer walls at Vernon AME all the way to the White House and to the halls of Congress. And to begin today, we actually are going to hear from one of those representatives, those senators that has put their feet on the soil of Greenwood, that has touched their hands to those walls of Black Wall Street. He wanted to give us a special message. And so direct your attention to the screen, and you are about to hear from Senator Cory Booker.
Hello, Legacy Festival. I am grateful to be with you in spirit today as we remember and reflect on the anniversary of the act of race massacre that occurred here. What happened here is still a wound that festers. This community courageously carries not just the trauma of what happens, but the pain of justice so long denied. Yet you endure, yet you work. You keep the memory alive. You pass it down generation to generation. You are healers. Look, too long the story of resilience, of spirit, of determined hope, the excellence that is in this community, so often it has not been told and not been seen, but you all are bringing it to light. You all are showing that the unyielding dream of America must be made real for all, because as the great Langston Hughes said, there's a dream in this land with its back against the wall. To save the dream for one, we must save the dream for all. And so the story of this community is not just one of pain and trauma, but it's also a beautiful story about the potential for making sure that this country faces the challenges of our past, owns up to them, and has a pathway for redemption. You all are keeping the dream alive that we can heal, that we can overcome. Look, as I was growing up, your story, the story of this community, was passed to me. It was used as a symbol that we have work to do. And so I'm grateful to the Black Wall Street Legacy Festival for creating such a sacred space for all of Americans, not just your community. Creating a space where people from your community and others can come together to talk truth, to show love, to heal and grow. We have so much work to do to make this a nation that fully and unflinchingly and courageously confronts its past, and most importantly, addresses the unjust issues that might persist from that past, to make sure that our sacred ideals, our obligations and bonds to one another actually lead us to a space like you all are working to create, a space of healing and hope. And so thank you again for inviting me back into your community. I will never forget my first visit there, physically going. I know what it means to me. I heard the story from my parents. I carry it with me, but now I carry more. I carry your spirit, the goodness of the people I met. You all inspire me in the work that I do in the United States Senate. And so to everyone there, I give you my thanks. I give you my gratitude. I give you a virtual hug. And I want to say, continue, continue, continue. God bless you.
Now, we know that there has been work going on all fronts to move forward this push towards justice, long overdue justice for our descendants and survivors. We are about to hear from three of my favorite people. We'll hear from my community organizer, Ms. Shada Brown, my representative, Representative Regina Goodwin, and my mentor and attorney, Attorney Demario Solomon Simmons, on the pushes that they are making to move this community forward.
Thank you so much, Greg. Hello, everyone. It is so great to see this room filled today. I'm honored to speak to you. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Shada Brown. I am the Deputy Director of the Terrence Crutcher Foundation. Thank you. It truly is a dream job. It will be one of the biggest honors of my life to work here and with the Crutcher family. None of us would be in this room today without the leadership of Reverend Joey Crutcher, Dr. Tiffany Crutcher, and the Crutcher family. So please, please give them their flowers today. Stand. Oh, excuse me. We're so thankful for your leadership, Dr. Crutcher. The fortitude, resilience, commitment, dedication that I get to stand next to Dr. Crutcher and watch every day, what she gives to this community, her family, her staff, it's incredible. So truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Dr. Crutcher, for giving me a chance to work with you and for all that you do. Greg started off by saying that the Terrence Crutcher Foundation works in 3 major work streams. And one of that is honoring the legacy of our ancestors. That is what, Legacy Fest is all about this weekend. We are trying to honor, show deference, respect, but also inspiration and hope for the Greenwood community. I am so honored to be a part of this experience. And as part of honoring the legacy of our ancestors, I want to make 2 really exciting announcements about what the Terrence Crutcher Foundation is up to soon. When it comes to this work about remembrance. We are really excited that after erecting the first historical marker in Greenwood, we are ready to install a second historical marker in partnership with Equal Justice Initiative and Brian Stevenson. So that is coming soon. Yes, thank you. It will be installed at OSU Tulsa, and it will honor the greatness of Greenwood. So please be looking forward to that. But now I'm really excited to share something brand new. We have been given a grant in partnership with Maestra, an organization in Brooklyn. It's a Black-owned, woman-owned organization, and they have granted the Terrence Crutcher Foundation funds to help repair and restore 3 descendant homes this year. So we are very excited to announce that today. We always say we feel we have the trust, credibility, and proximity, again, because of the leadership of the Crutcher family to do this type of work, and we are here to do what we can to show our respect and deference to the Greenwood community. It is an honor to work with you all. I just want to say, and I've already said, it is the greatest honor of my life. Thank you for letting me into this community to work alongside each of you. If you ever need anything, please let me know, and have a great rest of your day and luncheon experience. Thank you so much.
Hello, you guys. First of all, let's again give up for Dr. Crutcher. Anytime you step into any space that she has anything to do with, it's going to be top notch. It's going to be done with professionalism, and she continues to give what we call blacknificence to Tulsa. So let's give it up for blacknificence and Dr. Tiffany Crutcher. I am Regina Goodwin, State Representative, and have been blessed to work alongside of Tiffany for a while. And I was telling her, she said, Regina, will you be able to share the work that we've been doing since last year as we talk about when all the cameras were here and everybody's talking about the centennial and what we were going to do. The work was going on before then. It continues on afterwards. And after some very difficult negotiations, a lot of hard work, and I reached out to Tiffany, Dr. Crutcher, I'm sorry, I certainly reached out to Attorney Solomon Simmons, and I'd like to let them know what we've got going on, and they've always been there saying we support you, we stand with you, and they're always ready to fight for what's right. But I would like to say that as of yesterday, this was a year and a half in the making in terms of starting with Senator Horner, who has passed on now. I called her and said, Senator Horner, what has gone on with the scholarship that you and Representative Ross started? And she said, it's been all up and down. And I said that I was going to try to do what we could to make sure that those scholarship dollars that they started 20 years ago, that they would actually reach the folks in the way that they wanted them to be reached. And on behalf of Ms. Viola Ford Fletcher and Ms. Leslie Benningfield Randall, Mr. Hughes Van Ellis, and descendants, by God's grace, we worked with the bipartisan effort. We were able to bring some $1.5 million as of last night for scholarships that are now going to be going forward for descendants, for the impacted community, and those that want to preserve the history. So we've got a lot of work to do, but by God's grace, we are making progress. So let's keep on keeping on. Love you guys. Thank you.
Justice, 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 justice. I'm Attorney Demario Solomon Simmons. Law is my ministry. Justice is my passion. I'm excited to be here with you tonight or this afternoon to talk a little bit about our work at Justice for Greenwood. I'm just a kid from North Tulsa, grew up, went to Hawthorne, played basketball at Chamberlain, worked at Gibbs, went to Carver on Greenwood, Booker T. Washington High School, and to have this opportunity to stand here with all of you today as we continue to fight for our rights and our dignity. I want to first thank my sister, Dr. Tiffany Crutcher. Give her another round of applause for this amazing, amazing event. But not just the amazing event, but the fortitude to do everything that that family does, despite and in spite of all they have endured in this very city. Not only was Terrence brutally gunned down by Officer Betty Jo Shelby with his hands in the air, but their great-grandmother, Rebecca Brown Crutcher, was a victim of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, and yet they're still here. I thank the Terrence Crutcher Foundation for their vision and their leadership in this space. I want to recognize the Justice for Greenwood team. Any of the Justice for Greenwood team that are here, if you please stand. I want to recognize you for your tremendous work on this issue. And I know we've already done this, but I would be remiss if I didn't recognize my three beautiful, amazing 100+ clients that are in this room today. I'm so blessed and thankful that I have an opportunity to represent these wonderful individuals, to call them my friends and their adopted son. I am talking about 108-year-old Mother Viola Ford Fletcher, 107-year-old Mother Leslie Benningfield Randall, and my man, the baby brother, 101-year-old Hughes Van Ellis, better known as Uncle Red. When I started this work almost 25 years ago as a college student at the University of Oklahoma, and then as a graduate student, and then as a law student, and then as a baby lawyer, I had the opportunity to work with hundreds of survivors at that time. And all of those, as we heard earlier, are gone on, except these last three who are leading the fight for justice, who are leading the fight for reparations, who are leading the fight to get what is deserved for Greenwood. And when I say leading the fight, these amazing individuals sat in court with us on September 28th for almost 6 hours. And we kept asking them at our breaks, do you want to leave? Is it too much? And they all three of them told me, as long as you're here fighting for us, we're going to be here fighting with you. And then on May 2nd, just a few weeks ago, when we had this entire community come to the courtroom, it was standing room only. Many of the people here tonight were standing in that courtroom to witness history. And those three survivors were there also. And not just those survivors, but their caretaking, their families. It's a lot that people don't understand that it takes when people are over 100 to get them to where they need to be. And it's because of the love of their family, their children, and their grandchildren. So I want the grandchildren and the children of the survivors to stand, because you deserve recognition and credit for having these guys looking so good and taking such good care of them. And for all the descendants are here, you all are amazing and wonderful people, because literally, the stated goal of the Tulsa Race Massacre was to run the Negro out of Tulsa, to completely eradicate our existence here. Yet, here we are. And we're not just here, we're still fighting. And I always like to say, it's important to understand about the massacre, but it's also very important to understand that before the massacre, how Greenwood was built, and that we fought for everything that we built up into 1921. We fought during the massacre. Unfortunately, we were outnumbered and outgunned. And we started fighting for justice days after the massacre. When you think about the picture of B.C. Franklin, the great attorney B.C. Franklin, practicing law in a tent, suing the very people that had destroyed his community. And we're still making that fight. And that fight through justice for Greenwood occurs through 4 specific programs. Our first program, called We Are Greenwood, where we're bringing together the Greenwood community descendants. We have over 625 descendants in our descendant community. We're doing the oral histories of our descendant community. Our second program, our Fight for Our Rights and Our Dignity, where we're bringing lawsuits. You heard about the May 2nd victory. We have other lawsuits that are ongoing, and many more, or at least some more, that are coming. We have our Black Wall Street Legacy Fund, where to date, our small grassroots organization has been able to give out over $350,000 to survivors, the surviving churches of the massacre, and the Greenwood Cultural Center. And our fourth program, yes, that's amazing, right? Our fourth program, the BTW Initiative, which stands for the Booker T. Washington Initiative, is where we educate and truth tell. And this is where we tell our story from our perspective. And we challenge false narratives at all times. And I'm very excited to report that as of yesterday, we acquired one of the most rare books related to Greenwood in the world, a 1941 Greenwood directory that has the names and addresses of the Greenwood community in 1941. We're so excited about that work. And as I get ready to close, our mission is very clear. It is to provide justice and reparations for the Greenwood community, descendants, survivors, and those that were dispersed throughout this nation, indeed the world. Because we do this work because we love Greenwood. Because Greenwood is and always was a love story. And it's a love story when you think about Dick Rowland, a 19-year-old shoeshine boy who got on the elevator with a white woman named Sarah Page. And because of what happened on that elevator, the city of Tulsa, the Tulsa Chamber, and the other perpetrators of the massacre wanted to lynch 19-year-old Dick Rowland. Dick Rowland was not a wealthy individual. Dick Rowland was not a powerful individual. In fact, for the world, Dick Rowland was a nobody. But for Greenwood, Dick Rowland was a somebody. And so because the community of Greenwood loved Dick Rowland, the most prominent, the most powerful, the most wealthy men of Greenwood went downtown to protect the life of a shoeshine boy. Because the world said Dick Rowland was a nobody, but as Greenwood, he was a somebody. Because Greenwood was and always is, will be a love story. So I leave you with justice, justice, justice. Thank you.
I would be intimidated coming up after Attorney DeMario Solomon Simmons, but I do it so much, I'm used to it now. But let's give Attorney DeMario Solomon Simmons, Representative Regina Goodwin, and Ms. Shada Brown another round of applause for the work that they are leading. And certainly, I think the power of this community is that they're not the only ones leading work, particularly within this area. And I think it is so powerful that we have the Crutcher Foundation led by an incredible black woman, Dr. Tiffany Crutcher. We have great leadership at the state capitol with another black woman, Representative Regina Goodwin, and certainly we have great leadership in the city council with our District 1 city councilor, Ms. Vanessa Hall Harper, who has done the work and has led the city council this past year to acknowledge not only what was done in the race massacre, but to acknowledge the harms that have continued for black people in Tulsa, and to commit to doing something about that through policy and starting with community conversations. And certainly I am looking forward to working with Councilwoman Hall Harper on having those educational conversations about the work that Representative Goodwin referenced, that 2001 report, the work of Attorney DeMario Solomon Simmons and the plaintiffs with the current court case going on, and continuing to push our city to do what they should have done a long time ago. So again, I want to recognize Councilwoman Hall Harper for her work. I also want to recognize other elected officials that we have here. We have Councilors Kara Joy McKee and Councilwoman Lori Dector Wright, who is the chair of the council. We have Representatives Monroe Nichols and John Waldron to go along with Representative Regina Goodwin. We have the State Democratic Party Chair, Alicia Andrews, and we are joined by former elected officials as well that I want to recognize. We are joined by Kendra Horn, the former U.S. Congresswoman, and former State Senator Jabbar Shoemate. He's with the right fraternity, DeMario and Ray. I see y'all in here. And also, and if I missed you, you can come find me while you're enjoying your lunch. I will apologize and then I will recognize you. But we want to thank our elected officials for being here. Now, as you all are eating, we are again going to be blessed with some amazing entertainment. We're going to be blessed by someone who I've grown up listening to, someone who is fresh off tour with our Uncle Charlie Wilson, the world-renowned singer, musical entertainer. Give it up for Mr. Tony Mason.
All right. Good to see everybody this afternoon. What an auspicious occasion. I want to pay homage to the Crutcher family and the Crutcher Foundation. Thank you, Mr. Crutcher, Dr. Crutcher, Dr. Tiffany, and Reverend Crutcher. They have been pillars in our community. Their family has been very close to many of us, and a very gifted family. And also, we're here to pay homage to our survivors, because they're thrivers. Y'all missed that. We're paying homage to our survivors because they're thrivers. They're still, they're still here. I often wonder what it feels like to cross the threshold of 100 years old. Back in the Old Testament, God said, you know, folks used to live 800, 900 years. But when he said, I will shorten men's days to 120, I wonder what it feels like to get close to be 120. The things you've seen, the things you've heard, the experiences you've had. You have much to teach us. Thank you for your sustained life. I thank God for each of you. So yes, that's a yes. You guys have crossed thresholds that many of us hope to get to. Thank you. God bless each of you. This first song is going to be a song for them, for our survivors. Let's go. So many places in my life and times, and I've sung a lot of songs. I've made some bad rhymes. I've acted out my life in stages with 10,000 people watching. We're alone now, and I'm singing this song to you. And now I know your image of me is what I hope to be. The world has treated you unkindly. Oh, can't you see? There's no one more important to me. Hey, can't you see through me? But we're alone now, and I'm singing this song to you. You've taught us precious secrets about true love with a holding nothing. You came all out in front while the world was hiding. Oh, but now I'm so much better if my words don't come together. Just listen to the melody, 'cause my love is in there crying. I love you in a place where there's no more space or time. And I love you for my life. You're a friend of mine. And when my life is over, remember when we were together. We're all alone, and I'll be singing this song to you. Space or time, and I love you with my life. You'll always be a friend of mine. So when my life is over, remember when we were together. We were alone. I was singing this song to you. We were alone. I was singing this song to you. Oh, we were alone, and I was singing this song. Singing this song to you. Man, I'm getting kind of emotional. I can't imagine what you all have endured. I can't imagine what you've seen. But I'm so grateful that I can walk up and say, thank you. Thank you. God bless you all. God bless you all. And this song is for those of us who remain. This is the message for those of us who are still here. And I thank God again for the Crutcher Foundation because they remain, and because foundations like theirs remain and people in our community remain, we can take the message of freedom and justice and reparations and all those things that matter. We can spread it to our children and our children's children. So we got to keep the light burning. This song is for those of us who remain. Y'all can sing along with me if you want to. Yeah. Hang on to the world as it spins around. Just don't let the spin get you down. I know things are moving fast, so hold on tight and you will last. Keep your self-respect and your manly pride. Oh, get yourself in gear and keep your stride, yeah. And never mind your fears, 'cause one day brighter days will soon be here. Take it from me, someday we'll all be free. Is there a witness here today? Yeah, yeah. If you're through eating and you don't mind, you can snap your fingers a little bit. Come on. Woo. Give me just a little more music up here. A little more of my vocal. Ah. Yeah, yeah. Oh. So here's what we gotta do. We gotta keep on walking tall. Hold your head up high and lay your dreams right up to the sky. We gotta sing our greatest song, and we'll keep growing, on. Take it from me, someday we'll all be free. Hey, take it from me, someday we'll be free. And it won't be long, take it from me, one day very soon we'll all be free. Hey, hey, take it from me, one day we're gonna be free. And I can't wait. One day we'll all be free. God bless you.
Lord, Mr. Tisdale gonna ask me to follow that. He's so funny. Right, hilarious. Somebody is gonna have to follow it, and luckily for us, he's well up to the task. Our keynote speaker is someone who I've known really well over the past few years, because as a theme with the folks who we have up here today, he's put his feet in the soil of Greenwood and has used his platform to elevate our story, to teach the country the lessons that he's gonna give us a sample of today. Mr. Jeffrey Robinson is the founder and chief executive officer of the Who We Are Project, which is an organization that is focused on correcting the narrative of our shared history. That current narrative is being a little bit bent out of shape, particularly when it comes to anti-blackness and to upholding white supremacy. And his project does an amazing job of attacking that. Jeffrey is a graduate of Howard Law School and has spent the last 4 decades working on criminal justice and racial justice issues, and continues to be a national trial attorney while also teaching advocacy. Now, he's gonna come up in just a minute, but as I told you all, if I make a mistake, let me know. And I was in such a hurry to get down to that chicken that I left out one of our former elected officials. So before we hear from Mr. Robinson, I want us to recognize actually one of the founding writers underneath the late Senator Maxine Horner of the original Race Riot Commission report, and that is the former State Representative Connie Johnson. Senator Connie Johnson, I apologize again. Thank you so much. she is announcing herself, amen. And now, I think it's something when you meet someone and you can say that their creativity or their talent is matched by their character and their authenticity. And that is true of Jeffrey Robinson. And so, Jeffrey, before you come up here, I just want to say thank you for what you have done for this community and for this country, and for what you have done for me personally, inspiring me to continue to share my voice, particularly on the subject of justice. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause for our keynote speaker, Mr. Jeffrey Robinson.
I don't know how I'm supposed to follow everything that came before me. I'm just going to do my best. It is one thing to come to this city, and I have come here many times now, and I will be back, I promise you. But to be invited here by Dr. Crutcher at this time for this event is something that I will never forget. Because there are 3 survivors in this room, descendants in this room, relatives, friends, and community supporters who refuse to let America forget what happened here, who are making sure that there is a remembrance, a reckoning, and a redress for what happened here 101 years ago, and your efforts are reflecting all across America, and I thank this community for that effort. My project made a documentary film called Who We Are, A Chronicle of Racism in America. And I have to thank some of the people in this room who helped us make that film. You just heard from one of us, Greg Robinson, or one of them, Greg Robinson, and I can't claim to be his relative, but I sure am glad that I'm his friend. Dr. Tiffany Crutcher, Reverend Joey Crutcher, and Mrs. Liana Crutcher invited us into their home and shared their personal stories and pain with us so that we could let America know something about what happened here. Chief Amuzan and Christy Williams took us on the real Black Wall Street tour, where I thought I knew stuff, and I was amazed at what I didn't know. Titus Jackson, if you see this film, you will see some amazing drone footage in this film. That's all because of Titus Jackson. And of course, there's Mother Randall, who, if you've seen the film, you will see why she had me and people all over this country crying and laughing within seconds of each other. And I can't mention her name, and I will say her whole name, Leslie Benningfield Randall, without mentioning Viola Fletcher and Hughes Van Owen. I just read something remarkable about an act of philanthropy where a New York City organization called Business for Good and their co-founder, Mr. Ed Minson, apparently contributed $1 million so that these 3 survivors can have some economic peace at this point in their lives. And that is incredible. It is moral. It is ethical. It is justified. But don't confuse philanthropy with justice, because they are not the same thing. And before I go on, I just have to say, I saw DeMario when I was walking in, and understand, winning this motion to dismiss, and I won't say it quite the way I said it to him, somebody's about to get a butt whooping. Because winning a motion to dismiss means that the facts are going to be discussed. And that is the most frightening thing for people who do not want to acknowledge what happened here, and that's coming. DeMario, congratulations, and thank you. So I want to spend my time talking to you about something that you may have heard of recently, something called replacement theory. Now, replacement theory, is this something new? Is this something that a guy named Renard Camus thought up in France in 2011? Or maybe it's something that Tucker Carlson thought up at Fox News. Because after the Buffalo shooting, Tucker Carlson was all like, this is mysterious. He was quoted as saying, we've heard a lot about it in the last 2 days, but we're still not sure exactly what it is. And that's kind of comical, because the New York Times documented that he has pushed replacement theory at least 400 times in his episodes. What Tucker Carlson has warned about, and what replacement theory is about, is a nefarious group of elites who want immigrants from the third world who are more obedient voters to replace current American voters. Folks, some guy in France didn't think this up. Tucker Carlson didn't think this up. That guy's never had an original thought in his life. This is an old and familiar and recognizable enemy. And that is what is important for us to understand who and what it is that is fighting against us. The roots of replacement theory are simple. It has been advanced openly and insidiously throughout American history, and it can be traced back not to Tucker Carlson, but to the origins of America. So what I want to do is to talk a little bit about that, and to talk about politics in this frame. I was just in a discussion with a professor named Ricky Jones from the University of Louisville, and he quoted a definition of politics that really grabbed me. He says, politics is about who gets what, where, when, and how. And replacement theory is about politics. And it was carried out in one way before the Civil War, and in a slightly different way after the Civil War, but it's always been about the same thing. Now, it may be counterintuitive, because I'm going to talk about the original replacement theory. It may be counterintuitive because you're hearing this is all about keeping immigrants from coming to America. Well, the original replacement theory was 180 degrees the opposite. It was about protecting bringing people to America. And in colonial America, the transatlantic slave trade was how the colonies got rich. The ships that they named that were built in America, the desire, the fortune, the hope, the prosperity. The laws that were passed. In Virginia in 1662, the law made it clear that if a woman who was enslaved had a child, that child was enslaved. Why'd they need that law? Because white men were raping black women. And the law just wanted to be clear in case those babies came out with freckles and blue eyes. Don't go thinking that's a human being. That's an enslaved human being who will never be among the people who has the right to vote. Virginia enacted more than 130 slave statutes. South Carolina passed a 58-chapter law, in their words, not mine, so that the slave may be kept in due subjugation and obedience. And while at 1619, there were 20 and odd enslaved people that came to America, and there were probably more before that, but we're talking about a small number, 171 years later, by 1790, that 20 and odd had turned into 700,000. And constitutional America took over where colonial America left off, because the colonies put slavery right on the table at the Constitutional Convention with all of the money it was making, and we doubled down at the Constitutional Convention. We've all heard about the 3/5 clause and thinking about how that degraded us in terms of suggesting that we were less than human. But quite frankly, that's not what the 3/5 clause was about. The 3/5 clause was about politics. You remember Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death? Well, he wrote a letter at the Constitutional Convention saying there are 236,000 black people in Virginia and few or none in the northern states. Multiply 236,000 by 3/5 and you get a huge number. And that number added to the number of congressional representatives and the number of electoral college votes you got. The 3/5 clause was about maintaining the power of slave owners. And if you wonder if it worked, out of the first 12 presidents, 9 of them were from the South and 7 were from Virginia. The Naturalization Act of 1790 made it clear only white people could be naturalized. And by 1860, the eve of the Civil War, that 700,000 enslaved people, that had become 4 million. And none of them were a threat to have anything to do with deciding who gets what, when, where, and how. And then there was the Civil War and stuff changed. And replacement theory had to change. Because now the 13th Amendment with slavery, the 14th Amendment with citizenship, and the 15th Amendment with voting is changing the face of America. There were 700,000 registered black voters in the South. 2,000 black men had been elected to office. And all of a sudden, those people that were seen as subhuman were actually a danger to get involved with actual politics. So I'll tell you what stopped it. The most bizarre election in American history. And I'm not talking about either of the last two. I'm talking about, if you think those were bizarre, just like buckle your seatbelt. This is the election of 1876. And I'm going to leave out a lot of juicy detail, but here's the essence. The Republicans nominate Rutherford B. Hayes and William A. Wheeler, president, vice president. The Democrats nominate Samuel Tilden for president and Thomas Hendricks for vice president. And on the night that the votes were being counted, it looked like Tilden had won. A Republican newspaper, the Indianapolis Journal, published this headline: "With the result before us at this writing, we can see no escape from the conclusion that Tilden has been elected. The Democrats have doubtless carried every southern state, and the announcement will carry pain to every loyal heart in the nation, but the inevitable truth may as well be stated." Well, by the next morning, more votes had come in, and the Republicans were claiming that they won Florida, South Carolina, and Louisiana. That same newspaper printed this on the very next day: "The Republicans can rejoice. The conclusion of yesterday is reversed. The latest returns give the win to Hayes by a majority of 1 in the Electoral College, 185 to 184. But that wasn't it, because everybody was protesting that there was chicanery going on in those 3 states, Louisiana, South Carolina, and the third one, and Florida. The governor of Florida telegraphs the President of the United States and said, "We had a special train going out to get the returns," and I love this phrase, "it got Ku Kluxed and taken off the track." President Ulysses S. Grant had to send troops to the capital of all 3 of these states. So stuff is looking like it's gonna be a war again. Well, Congress got together and they came up with a plan. We're gonna have a commission decide who wins. 7 Democrats, 7 Republicans, and 4 Supreme Court justices are going to pick the deciding person, the 15th person. Well, that was a light Republican, and to make a long story short, the Republicans won 8-7. But that still didn't end things, because the Democrats were saying Tilden or blood. So they got together and made a deal. And the deal was the Southern troops were going to be removed from the South, and Hayes was elected, and Reconstruction died. Pulitzer Prize-winning author Douglas Blackmun wrote that laws were passed that essentially criminalized black life. Between 1865 and 1880, listen to this, 13 of the existing 38 states passed felony disenfranchisement laws, meaning if you're convicted of a felony, you can't vote. And the pattern was clear. In the states that had large black prison populations, they passed these laws. In the states that had small black prison populations, they didn't. The whole purpose of replacement theory is you won't replace us in deciding who gets what, where, when, and how. And if the blacks are already here, we can't use immigration to stop them from doing that, but we can use the law and a whole lot of other things to stop them from doing that. Remember that loophole in the 15th Amendment, or excuse me, the 13th Amendment? Slavery is gone except if you've been convicted of a crime. And the loophole in the 15th Amendment, you can't use race to keep someone from voting, but you can use poll taxes, literacy clauses, and outright violence. And to give you an example of the thing that nailed the coffin on Reconstruction, just 22 years after the election of 1876, in Wilmington, North Carolina, a group of white and black politicians called fusionists won every city office in the local elections. What did the white folks do? They assembled in the middle of town. They started burning black businesses and homes. They started killing black people. Does this sound familiar? They burned the black-owned newspaper, the Daily Record, and they took pictures of themselves in front of the building after they burned it, because just like with what happened here, nobody was concerned about pictures of them doing this stuff because they knew that the police were involved with them. They knew there would be no consequences. This is an old story. And when you leave Wilmington, let me just end that story. The black and white coalition politicians that were elected, they were all forced to leave office. And the people who were doing the killing appointed themselves into those offices. American historians have said it is the only coup in American history. And do you know how many people were arrested? 0. That's right. And that led into the 20th century. And at the beginning of the 20th century, from 1901 to 1910, Brian Stevenson's organization has documented, not the undocumented ones, but documented 752 lynchings in 520 weeks. 520 weeks is 10 years. That's more than a lynching every week. And this is the way that you keep people from voting. So very quickly, replacement theory. In 1916, there's some New York lawyer who wrote this thing called The Passing of the Great Race, where he decried that his Nordic superior people were being imposed upon by Jews and blacks and other inferior and social discards. The 1924 Johnson-Reed Act, which included, please listen to this, the Asian Exclusion Act and the National Origins Act. This guided immigration in America until 1965. It made immigration from Asia completely illegal. It set quotas for people that look like us so that, and I'm quoting the law, U.S. homogeneity would be preserved. 1925, The Great Gatsby. And in the first chapter of that book, we get introduced to a white guy who says this: the idea is, if we don't look out, the white race will be utterly submerged. It's all scientific, it's been proved. It's up to us, who are the dominant race, to watch out, or these other races will have control of things. And almost 100 years later, Tucker Carlson is saying this: they can import an entirely new electorate from the third world and change the demographics of the U.S. so completely they will never lose again. Replacement theory is as old as this country. It's nothing new, and we've dealt with it before. One of the things that America has a problem with as we try and reckon with this history is something Professor Jones from Louisville talked about. Can you imagine the mental anguish that it takes to be a thing and to deny with your last breath that you are that thing? America is so afraid of confronting our past because if we confront it, it will have consequences. I want to end by saying this. How did we get Juneteenth as a national holiday? Because before June 1st of last year, there was no national movement for Juneteenth to be a national holiday. I am not disrespecting any advocates that have been pushing for that, because there are advocates who have worked on that. I'm just saying there was no national discussion, there was no national movement, there was no committee in Congress, there was nothing. And then y'all did what you did here. And what you did here in the centennial remembrance made America, quite frankly, want to throw up in its mouth. It made America ashamed. It made America angry. It made America feel like, my God, we got to do something. That's why Juneteenth got made a national holiday. With no previous discussion, they passed that bill in 18 days. In 18 days. That's what this community did to the national landscape. And it's why I'm saying this is about Greenwood. This is about Tulsa. There is no question about that. But this is about something that is much larger than that. This is about the United States of America. And the work that you're doing here is making the city of Tulsa, the state of Oklahoma, and the United States of America take a hard look in the mirror. We got midterm elections coming up, folks. And friends don't let other friends not vote. Voting can change the course of a nation. If you don't believe it, look at the election of 1876. By one electoral college vote, and Reconstruction was destroyed. We got things to do, and I know y'all will be out there doing them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jeff. We are at that point where we are going to do some special presentations. I'm going to give a little bit of time for our awards to get collected and recognize just a few more folks, so bear with me here. I do want to recognize the faith leaders that we have in the room. Certainly the head pastor at Vernon AME is in the building. He will be doing our prayer at the end of the service, but we also have Bishop Pearson here. We have Apostle Layla Caldwell here. We have Pastor Jamal Dyer, Pastor Sean Jarrett, Pastor Chris Moore, Reverend Ray Owens as well, just to name a few. And so we always want to acknowledge our clergy for the work that they do and for being in the house. And I've been told that the former Senator David Riggs is not one to want to be acknowledged, but certainly as he is a co-counsel on the lawsuit, we want to acknowledge David Riggs as well for being here. Now, I want to bring up the son of really one of our forebearers. We are all here and have a little bit more knowledge about what has occurred and what occurred during the massacre and since because of the great and late Eddie Faye Gates. And to talk about his mother's legacy and eventually to give out some awards in her name, I want to bring up and let's give a hand to her son, Mr. Derek Gates.
First of all, it's an honor to be here. The race riot and justice for the survivors is a very important part of my mother's legacy. She believed in this, she lived for this, and she would be so proud of this moment. I am very grateful to the Terrence Crutcher Foundation, Dr. Tiffany Crutcher, and all the people that have supported bringing justice finally to these people that have waited over 100 years. It's very important, and this is what my mother lived for. She didn't live for recognition. She didn't live for personal gain. She lived to provide hope and opportunity for people that had no hope and felt that nobody cared. So I want to thank those who put the Race Riot Commission together, Maxine Horner, Don Ross, and the people that supported her in her mission to get the stories of these survivors told. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to have people recognize in her name for the work that she has done. It's hard to explain how powerful this is, but I'm here in respect to my mother and also to my other brothers and sisters, my brother Kevin, who is here, my brother Norman, who lives in Dallas, my sister Donna, who lives in Dallas, and also my sister Diane, who lives in California. And unfortunately, because of the legacy of this city, when fine, intelligent people like my siblings leave, they don't come back. We want to make this a city where people leave and live and want to stay and want their children to stay. I feel like the best analogy I can use being in Oklahoma is like a football analogy. My mother started on this charge in the end zone, and she advanced the ball. But she didn't make it to the other end zone. She got pulled out of the game. But those that are going to advance it to victory, DeMario, Solomon Simmons, Vanessa Hall Harper, and many others, Greg Robinson, people that I can't mention, there's so many. It's your turn. It's your turn to take the ball and move it. I'm so thankful that you have the passion and the commitment to keep this hope alive and to make this thing a journey that will have a positive benefit. And like so many of you, we're tired of the symbolic victories, the pats on the back, the apologies, and business as usual. We can't have that. We don't need medals you can get for $7 at a sporting goods store. That's not justice. That is not justice. My mother got one of those medals, and she said, I don't need this. We're looking for reparations. They took people's homes, their lives, and their futures. I don't need this medal. So thank you all for recognizing my mother. Thank you for continuing the fight. Thank you, Dr. Tiffany Crutcher, for the light you shine nationally on this issue. The Lord works in mysterious ways. I probably would have never met you if it weren't for the tragedy that happened to your brother. But I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that we're all here. And I truly, for once, believe that there's a brighter future for this city, and people will finally have to open their eyes and recognize what happened and make amends for it. Thank you very much.
As Brother Gates mentioned, there are people behind the telling of our stories. There are people behind the continuance of a fight for justice. And there is one particular person who must be given the acknowledgement for being behind not just this particular celebration this weekend, but really in energizing the continued fight on ground for justice in a lot of different ways. And that person is Dr. Tiffany Crutcher. Just go ahead and receive that. I was going to say more, but I wanted you to receive that. But I do want to thank you because there is a lot of pain and sacrifice behind the decision to sleep on your father's couch. Got to tell a little bit so they feel it. And to wake up every day and fight in the face of. I can't finish the sentence because you're never sure of what you're going to be fighting in the face of that day. And yet, you choose to continue to fight. And so just like Eddie Faye Gates chose to write, and just like Charles Ogletree chose to fight in the court of law, you continue to choose to fight on ground. And so I know you are giving out some special awards, but I wanted to make sure to thank you and acknowledge you for the continued work that you do.
Thank you so much. Can we give it up for Greg Robinson? I called him at 6 this morning and told him that our MC wouldn't make it because of a flight delay, and he jumped right in. Whenever I call Greg Robinson, he's there. Whenever I call and say, hey, we're getting ready to shut down a street, he's there. Whenever I call and say, hey, we need to jump on a mayor's ballot, he's like, okay. And so we got to give it up for this freedom fighter who has done so much and made so many sacrifices for our community. So I love you too. I don't want to prolong because there's a bet, because someone said, I bet you $20 you won't end on time. And I'm going to try to make that happen. But before I get started, I would be remiss. I always like to honor my father, Reverend Joey Crutcher. If you all could just give him a hand. Thank you, Dad, for allowing us to keep your son's legacy alive. He never complains, and so we love you. Again, to the Vernon AME Church, Pastor Keith Mays and your team for being good partners. Just give them another round of applause. Thank you so much. And to the survivors and descendants. God honors edification, and I'm just simply a servant. But today, I want to present 3 awards, and the first award goes to a young man that I met, and he called and said, hey, can we just talk about the survivors? And I shared with him a conversation I had with Mother Leslie Benningfield Randall. in 1999, or 2019, I'm sorry, she came to hear me speak. She was getting ready to turn 105. It's really funny when I say that. She was getting ready to turn 105. And I asked her, what do you want for your birthday? And she said, I want to look pretty, and I want my home restored. And I said, I can do number one, but I don't know about number two. But I went home and I couldn't sleep, and I said, we have to make this happen, because I found out that when she turned 100, that was her birthday wish. And I said, we have to make this happen. And so Tony and I had lunch one day, shared with him what I was going to do, and he said, I want to help. I want to make this happen. And he partnered with the Terrence Crutcher Foundation. He was at the gathering place at the time and did a lot out of his pocket. He went shopping with me for furniture. He got his team, and he did the landscaping, did everything. Whatever it was that Mother Randall needed, Tony showed up. Whenever his family called Tony, he showed up. And so this is the challenge to people who move to town saying that they're gonna rebuild Black Wall Street or Greenwood. You come in service, you come bearing gifts, and this is what he has done. And even though he's transitioned on to Dallas, he continues to call to check on Mother Randall, he calls to check on my family, and he did something really special for me that I'll never forget. When my mom passed away, he planted a tree. I'm gonna tell it, Tony. He planted a tree so me and my dad would have a place and to go and just sit around that tree and honor my mom. And so, without further ado, the Eddie Faye Gates Legacy Award goes to Mr. Tony Moore, presented by Mother Leslie Benningfield Randall. You all have to stand up. Give it up to Mr. Tony Moore. I can't even see.
Huge thank you to Dr. Crutcher and the Terrence Crutcher Foundation, Reverend Crutcher. Just an honor to be here. You know, you guys accepted me as family. I did a lot of learning. You know, dude who just came from Florida to do a park, but fell in love with Tulsa. Want to thank Dr. Crutcher for her mentoring and teaching. Want to thank Vanessa Hall Harper. I've learned more from you than you ever think and you ever thought. Representative Regina Goodwin, I know we had some conversations, and I want to thank you as well for your guidance. Jamal was the first guy that grabbed me under his wings and said, hey man, let me show you around. And he gave me the G version of things. And then Fred Jones grabbed me and gave me the R version. But just thankful for the community of Tulsa for allowing me to serve and to be a part of your community. And you know, as things continue, the fight continues. And so every year there's probably less media and less international attention, but the journey and the fight has to continue. And so I'm certainly inspired by your work, and thank you for having me be a part of this. Thank you.
The next award goes to a gentleman you've heard his name over and over again, a pioneer who fell ill and who is now suffering with Alzheimer's, who brought the first lawsuit against the city, and he went all the way to the Supreme Court, and as you've heard in the initial video, they were denied and given a gold medallion. And I just can't say enough again, I believe in honoring people while they're living and giving them flowers. And so I just felt like it was time to give Mr. Charles Ogletree, Professor Ogletree, the Eddie Faye Gates Legacy Award. And before you clap, if you would, before we present this award, and of course he couldn't be here today, but his daughter is gonna actually share some remarks via video, and so if you would turn your attention to the screen.
We are incredibly grateful to Dr. Tiffany Crutcher for honoring my father as we commemorate the 101-year anniversary of the Tulsa Massacre. We're sorry that we can't be there in person, but we're there with you in spirit. My father practiced law for more than 35 years. Over the course of his career, he taught hundreds of students as a professor of law at Harvard Law School. He represented clients facing serious criminal charges as a public defender in D.C. He also represented clients like Anita Hill as she sought justice during the confirmation hearings for Justice Clarence Thomas. His work fighting for justice and what's right took him all over the country, but there was no cause that he cared more deeply about than getting reparations for the survivors of the Tulsa Massacre. He once said that it was the most important legal work he'd done in his more than 30 years as a lawyer. He learned about the Race Massacre in 2002. In 2003, he assembled a team of lawyers and researchers and others called the Reparations Coordinating Committee. He initiated a lawsuit, and although it was ultimately dismissed, he was determined to make sure this country knew the names and stories of the Tulsa survivors. He got to know and love many of them, including Mr. Otis Clark, Mr. Wes Young, and Dr. Olivia Hooker. At the time that he and his team initiated the lawsuit in 2003, there were more than 150 survivors still living. He would often tear up just thinking about the number of survivors who never had the opportunity to receive reparations and justice for all that they and their families endured. While he isn't able to share his thoughts with us today, his words from 2005 still ring true. He said, "Until there's justice in Tulsa, there can be justice in no other place in America. We will fight with every legal, political, and moral weapon we have." If he could share his thoughts today, he would also share his deep appreciation and his deep pride that Demario Solomon Simmons, his former student Eric Miller, and others are continuing this fight. Thank you again for this honor.
You all have to stand up on your feet for Attorney Charles Ogletree. You all can do better than that. Wow, that's amazing. And the last award goes to a young man who was a baby lawyer at the time, working alongside Attorney Ogletree, someone I have so much respect for, so much love for, so much admiration, someone who decided to take this case on yet again, someone who decided to go against status quo and disrupt, someone who I've cried with, traveled with, strategized with, someone who loves his community so much in the face of adversity, people who supposed to love him, but yet he gets up another day, and what you all don't know is what goes on behind the scenes, and the struggles, and the tears, and the pain, and the back blows, and the retribution. But I told this young man that I will go down fighting for him and stand alongside him and walk alongside him as long as it takes for us to receive justice. And so what I've done is asked a few people to help me honor this baby attorney. And so if you would, turn your attention to the screen just so a few friends can help us honor Demario Solomon Simmons.
All right, big congratulations to Demario Solomon Simmons for your fantastic work with Justice for Greenwood, as well as the descendants of the Tulsa Race Massacre. This recognition is critically important. We appreciate your voice and your work out there, putting it in for the people, for the culture. And there's a lot of people out here who talk about what we should be doing, what we could be doing, and all kinds of stuff along those lines, but there are very few people who are actually putting it on the line. And so, Demario, you're certainly one of those folks. And look, and you see, I purposely rocked the alpha gear. I mean, we'll forgive you for joining that second-class fraternity, Omega Psi Phi. But it's all good. It's all good. People make mistakes. It's all good. Pray about it. That's why God gives grace when we make mistakes. All right, man. Congratulations. Hope everyone there, you enjoy the program. And please keep tuning in to Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network, where we're going to keep doing what we do, and that's bringing the funk. Be well. Holla!
Hello, I'm Sherilyn Eiffel, and until just 6 weeks ago, I was the president and director counsel of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, the organization founded by Thurgood Marshall. I stepped down in March from that organization. And during my tenure there, I've had the opportunity to meet some extraordinary people, extraordinary activists, and extraordinary civil rights lawyers fighting around the country. One of my greatest privileges was the opportunity to get to know some of them. One who I have the greatest admiration for is Demario Solomon Simmons. I met him in 2017. He was introduced to me by that great lady in your midst, Dr. Tiffany Crutcher. And as soon as I met him, I knew that he was our kind of lawyer, the kind of lawyer we like at the Legal Defense Fund. Determined, relentless, bold, bright, excellent, but most of all with a heart for justice and a love for our people. That is Demario in spades. He's done such extraordinary work and been such an extraordinary spokesperson for the people of Tulsa, particularly for those who are descendants or survivors of the Tulsa Massacre. We've had an opportunity to meet him and be with him up close. He attended our Civil Rights Institute in Virginia, and we've remained in contact over the years, addressing critically important issues like policing and reparations. And we've had an opportunity to be exposed to the heart of Demario Solomon Simmons. I'm so privileged to call him my friend. I'm so pleased that you all are honoring him today. One of the reasons that we as Black people have been able to make it and survive in this country is because of our resilience, but also because so many of us have what John Lewis called raw courage. Demario is one of them, the raw courage to speak truth to power, the raw courage to fight relentlessly, the raw courage to move forward even when the naysayers say it won't happen, to push that rock up the hill, to demand justice, to demand equality and dignity for our people. So thank you for recognizing him today, giving him his flowers. And Demario, I wish you the very best. We're so proud of you at the Legal Defense Fund, so proud that you're being honored today. And I also want to extend my love and deep respect for the people of Tulsa, with whom we've been privileged to work, and for the survivors and the descendants of those who witnessed the Tulsa Massacre. We stand with you. Thank you so much.
Greetings, I'm Mark Morial, President and CEO of the National Urban League. On behalf of our 92 affiliates across the nation and the entire Urban League movement, we want to welcome you all to the Honoring Survivors and Descendants Luncheon. Over 100 years ago, the Tulsa community, the Black Tulsa community, was destroyed by an angry mob of white supremacists. 300 people were killed. Serious injury fell on over 800 people. The angry mob burned more than 1,250 homes, all the way to the ground, along with every church, every school, and every business. That angry mob left 10,000 people without a roof over their head, essentially houseless and homeless, and wreaked over $200 million in property damage in today's dollars. Not one of the murderous white mob that obliterated the affluent Black neighborhood of Greenwood, Oklahoma, was ever prosecuted. Every single insurance claim filed by a Black property owner was denied.
the scourge of destruction, the human pain and suffering told out, the barbarity and hate that occurred in Tulsa took place in many other communities throughout the South. A low point in American history. But today, as we gather, we state forcefully that while this attack was significant and life-changing, it did not deter us from the rebuilding and from using all of our voices to continuously fight for justice. Demario Solomon Simmons, I want to single out for special recognition. He's been an advocate for the Tulsa community and for his great work in leading the historic lawsuit and continuing to fight for the repair, respect, and restitution of the Greenwood community. He was a guest recently on our podcast alongside Dr. Tiffany Crutcher and Eric Miller. It's our State of Black America podcast, and you should tune in when you get a chance sometime in the future. I want to say thank you to all who are working to restore the Greenwood community. But the restoration has to be about African American ownership of buildings and property, African American economic participation, not just a place where people will visit, but a place where people will earn wealth, earn income, and develop wealth. I want to say to the Honoring Survivors and Descendants at this luncheon, we all owe you a debt of gratitude and respect. Don't let this issue die. We must respect, we must honor our ancestors and elders who went before us and who paid a terrible cost, a terrible price, and bore a terrible burden. It is our job to work for justice. Have a great luncheon. God bless you, and we will see you. And you can count on the Urban League. We're in your corner. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Civil Rights Attorney Ben Crump, and I am honored to join in celebrating the unprecedented legal work that has been accomplished by my fraternity brother, one of the best lawyers in the United States of America, Demario Solomon Simmons. What you're doing on behalf of the survivors in Tulsa, Oklahoma, will be a legacy that our children yet unborn will benefit from. Thank you for blazing the trail, Frat. We love you. We're proud of you.
Brother Demario, this is Brother Hank Johnson. I want to congratulate you on being honored for being a successful litigator on behalf of the oppressed people of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and beyond. Now, thank you so much for your representation. It's been a lifelong endeavor for you, or at least a career-long endeavor. I know in law school you were involved in issues surrounding Black Native Americans, as well as Black people living in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the progeny of the Tulsa Massacre. So thank you so much for your work. Look forward to seeing you again. Look forward to having you on my podcast also.
When history records the heroes of the Civil Rights Movement, our friend Demario will have a well-deserved place among them. Demario has been instrumental in bringing to the world's attention the reality of the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921, the most horrific episode of racial violence and hatred in U.S. history. Demario has fought and continues to fight for justice for the victims and the descendants and the entire Greenwood Black community, recently winning an important case based on the novel use of the Oklahoma public nuisance law. I'm very proud of the fact that my law firm, Schulte, Roth & Zabel, has as many as 20 of our lawyers and paralegals following your leadership. Winston Churchill said that the most important human quality is courage, because it guarantees all the others. We are very fortunate to have someone like you with your courage leading us. Thank you, Demario.
I'm Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, standing here right at the White House. And it gives me great honor to be here to say to you, my good friend, Attorney Solomon Simmons, Demario, as I love calling you, thank you for everything that you've done. As we commemorate the 101st anniversary of the Tulsa Massacre and the resilience of our people, it brings me great joy to join others in honoring you for all your work. Black Americans and Black Tulsans in particular are well aware of what happened in 1921 and its long-term impact on our people. Demario, your work makes a difference. And I want to salute you and join others in saying thank you. And I look forward on behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus to come back and visit you again. Stay strong, my brother, and we will continue to talk truth to power. And remember, when we get it right in Tulsa, we get it right in America. I'm Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. We love you, and I approve this message.
Attorney Demario Solomon Simmons, you know this is your brother, your big brother, Reverend Al Sharpton. I want to be part of this great salute to you for your great work. You have no idea how important and impactful your tireless, unselfish work has been. You vindicated the faith and trust of our ancestors and our forefathers. And what you've done with the Tulsa case and so many others will go down in history. God bless you. I'm proud to know you.
Demario, what a privilege to be able to salute you and congratulate you. It is really my honor to know you and to thank you, Attorney Solomon Simmons, for being a legal warrior, a scholar, a persistent genius that realized that the vulnerable needed to be empowered. You have used your legal skills, not for self, but to help others. As you know, this is Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee saying to all of you, he is deserving of honor because he's a fighter that never gives up, never gives in, and never gives out. It's my honor and privilege to salute you, Demario Solomon Simmons, the legal warrior. Congratulations, and never stop fighting.
When Dr. Crutcher told me about this opportunity to honor this extraordinary young man, I was so excited because I love Demario Solomon Simmons. He gives me great hope about the future of advocacy in this country. I'm so thrilled that you are acknowledging him, celebrating him, encouraging him, and honoring him for the extraordinary work that he is doing in Tulsa and across the country. I love Demario because he's the kind of lawyer that when the people he represents are struggling, he struggles. When they suffer, he suffers. When they feel a setback, he feels a setback. And it is that personal connection to the people he represents, the vulnerable, the incarcerated, victims of police violence, survivors of this horrific massacre. It's that connection that can weigh on him as an advocate, but it can also inspire him. A lot of people think being a young lawyer in these cases that sometimes generate a lot of attention is glamorous. It's not. It's hard work. It's overwhelming. There are times when you are on the edge of tears because you're so worried about whether you're going to be able to do the things that you know justice requires be done. And that's why I think it's appropriate and wonderful that we lift him up, that we celebrate him, that we thank him for the extraordinary work that he is doing. I've had the great privilege of working with him for the last couple of years. And he makes me feel like not only am I not alone, but that none of us are alone in our pursuit of justice and our demand for equality and fair treatment and our call for the kind of repair and remedy that inequality and injustice has to see manifest at this time in our history. Demario, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for the work. I'm excited to continue working with you. and want to let you know that I adore you and cherish you and appreciate you, and congratulations on this recognition.
So if you all would, stand up on your feet and help me present the Eddie Faye Gates Legacy Award to my friend, my brother, attorney Demario Solomon Simmons. Y'all can do better than that. Give it up, give it up, give it up.
Man, I'm speechless. That's never happened. I am just blown away. Wow. First of all, I think, wow, first of all, to see Professor Ogletree, that was really tough to watch. But to know that his family still thinking about the work that we're doing is amazing. I'm just humbled. This is unbelievable. This is overwhelming. Wow. I love you too. I'm grateful. I'm thankful for Tiffany. You know, a lot of people don't know. Some may know. Our parents went to a little small black church in North Tulsa called Philippi Baptist Church together, and our parents were pregnant at the same time. And so we always say we've been down from the womb and we're going to be down to the tomb. And we're a package deal, straight up. If you're coming for her, you're coming for me, and obviously you see if you're coming for me, you're coming for her. I appreciate you, Doc. I love you. Thank you so much. This is like the greatest honor of my life. And to get, when you see the lawyers, Shirley Eiffel said it was a privilege for her to be my friend. Shirley Eiffel, Brian Stevens said, and Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, and just all those folks that I've been working with and known since I was as a baby lawyer. I can't even hardly lift my head up. I'm just so, I'm overwhelmed. I'm only here because of my ancestors, including my four-time great-grandfather, Cal Tom, who signed the Creek Treaty of 1866 that ended enslavement in the Creek Nation on June 14th, 1866. My grandparents, Mama and Daddy Brown, my grandfather who worked for the city of Tulsa as a trash man and a janitor at American State Bank, my grandmother, Bernice Brown, who fed North Tulsa with her pies and her barbecue with an 8th grade education, my mother, Kathy Brown, who was born with cerebral palsy, and we call it, she was crippled and single parent. And so many other folks. My great team at Justice for Greenwood and my law firm, Solomon Simmons Law, and so many mentors and stuff in this room. It'd be hard to just call out people, but I do want to say one, David Riggs, who's been a great mentor, legal mentor of mine over the last 6 years, helped me with my law firm, encouraged me with this work, and so many other people in this room, Bishop Pearson, just a lot of people. I shouldn't even start naming names. My classmate, Jabbar Shoemate, I see back there that we've been doing a lot of stuff for a long time together, since we played football at Carver. I just thank you so much. I know the hour is late. I appreciate this. This will be cherished. This will be in my office. When you see me on Zoom, you'll see this award. Thank you. I love you. Justice for Greenwood.
All right, this is when the person playing the drums in the church get up and go to their position, and we are about to close. Just a few last acknowledgments. First of all, we want to acknowledge Color of Change. We want to acknowledge the Human Rights Watch for being here on ground and for working hand in hand with this community to fight for justice. And we also want to acknowledge the Schusterman Foundation for their contributions to this work as well. Now, Legacy Fest is ongoing, and so we want you all to enjoy the African Street Festival that's going on today. Certainly, we have a whole stock program full of entertainment. Fine Little Africa David banner next, so come out to the lawn today and fellowship in celebration of us, right? For sure. Before I bring up the pastor of Vernon AME Church, Pastor Keith Mays, I want to leave you all with a closing thought. As we reflect on what happened in Buffalo, as we reflect on what happened in Uvalde, as we reflect on what happened here in Tulsa, inaction has never led to action. Inaction has always led to worse things occurring. And so it has never been and it never will be that the pursuit of justice is a spectator sport. It's not. We have to do something. And until that occurs, we're going to keep on remembering the tragedies, the massacres, the injustices, the inhumane and the unnecessary deaths. Collectively and individually, you have a responsibility to do all you can whenever you can. And I want to make sure that we know that that is, in the end, the only way to truly honor those who have gone before us. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for your continued strength. God bless you, and we'll bring up Pastor Keith Mays.
Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. I greet you from the Vernon Church, and just want to share that we certainly partner with you in this endeavor. I heard the names of Pastor Jared, Pastor Dyer. I'm going to ask any other pastors who are here, would you come stand with me? Amen. I just think that this is a struggle, this is a battle, that it takes all of us working together to be victorious. It's been said, and rightfully so, that a house divided against itself cannot stand. Amen. So whether we be politicians, community organizers, fraternities, sororities, churches, it will take us standing together, because the other community, the adversary, does not have to do what we are doing to ourselves. Amen. Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, it's in you that we live, it's in you that we move, it's in you that we have our very being. Father God, we come to say thank you. God, we thank you for these three who yet remain as survivors. God, we thank you for their families. God, we thank you for Joy Crutcher and Tiffany Crutcher, that in the midst of their own pain, in the midst of their own calamity, their own tragedy, they count it not robbery to continue to open up their personal wounds, to sow into the lives of others, to help make change a reality in Tulsa. God, we understand that your word says, for we know that all things work together for the good of those that love you. But Father God, we love you and we trust you. We are still believing your word, that justice will run down like a mighty river. And that above all, your will is that we would prosper and be in good health. Father, we love you and we trust you. But our plea and petition is that not just on streets paved with gold, God, not just in the sweet by and by. God, we want to see justice. God, we want to see reparations. God, we want to see not just a storied past, but God, we want to experience a bright right now and an even brighter future. God, we're still yet asking how long, how much longer? God, it's our belief that 101 years is long enough. Sometimes, Lord, it's hard for us to know and to believe that a reckoning day is coming, that a reckoning day is on the horizon, because we're continuously experiencing Crucifixion Fridays. It was on Crucifixion Friday when Jesus asked the question, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? So God, it's hard for us to rejoice when we're still there, when we're still experiencing Crucifixion Fridays on a regular basis. Terrence Crutcher, a Crucifixion Friday. Walter Scott, a Crucifixion Friday. George Floyd, a Crucifixion Friday. Breonna Taylor, a Crucifixion Friday. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, Alton Sterling, Crucifixion Fridays. And God, 229 more murdered by police since George Floyd. God, we're still experiencing Crucifixion Fridays. God, we're ready for our Resurrection Sunday. God, we're ready for brighter days. So God, we recognize, God, that we must stand together and stand firm. But God, we believe in your word. We trust you, God. So God, we ask that your word would come to not only declaration, but fruition. God, I pray much for the strength of these politicians who made it their life calling, God, to sacrifice themselves, God, for the welfare of this community. God, I thank you for Attorney Solomon, God, that he might, God, I pray that you would protect him, God, that you would give him, God, the surrounding, God, the support, God, give him the words to say and the power in which to say them, God, that magistrates and juries and justice and judges, God, that he might have favor with you and with man. God, I pray much for Tiffany, God. Keep the fire burning. God, even when it feels like the struggle is in vain, God, keep the fire burning. God, I pray and ask in closing that you would bless every family, every home that's been represented in this place today. God, link and tie us so close together in Tulsa that one family, one church, one organization, one chamber can't stand or can't fall without the other. God, let us recognize that we can only be as close to you as we are to one another. God, forgive us all of our sins, sins of commission and omission, sins of thought, word, and deed, that we might be more like thee and less like ourselves. Father, let the words of our mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, because you are our strength and our Redeemer. And the people of God say it together, amen and amen. God bless you, and may God forever keep you.